And astonishing goal. That's the way to do it. Herrera. Ibrahimovic! With 3.5 minutes to play. Now Di Maria wants it back, gets it back. Fantastic.
That's the luck of the bounce off Gaston Ramirez. Top try! What a day this is turning out to be for Manchester United.
Mason Greenwood hits the spot.
In he goes towards Muriel. What a save, David De Gea. Brilliant save.
Dan James. Dream debut. Daniel James.
Hello and welcome back to the United Devils podcast. This week we are going to be discussing the start of the transfer window after the Premier League season came to a conclusion, and we're going to be looking ahead to United's next match tomorrow at the time of recording against LASK at Old Trafford. Of course, United have a 5-0 win away from home before lockdown ended, their final game before the lockdown actually began in Austria. With me today, I welcome back Joe and have a brand new panelist for you in one of our writers, Nithin. Welcome, Nithin. Why don't you say a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Mitch. Yes. So I'm Nithin. I'm from India. I write for the United Devils, and you can follow me on Twitter at Nithin_MUFC.
Thank you. Joe, it's always great to have you back on. How have you been?
Yeah, all good, mate. Thank you. Yeah, really busy at the moment with writing and one thing and another, and obviously all the transfer news around at the moment. It's just keeping us all busy, I think, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And what a very effortless way we're going to go transition straight into it. So, of course, the transfer window has been open for some time. In some of the leagues, obviously, the German league finished much earlier than the other leagues. And obviously, the likes of Timo Werner have already moved to Chelsea. But the big transfer for Manchester United at the moment that's happening around right at this point is Jadon Sancho. Now, it seems that the clubs are still working out a way to pay them the fee, which is believed to be a original fee or lump sum of £90 million set to be paid out over the next 3 seasons, and plus add-ons that could rise to make Jadon Sancho the most expensive player Manchester United have ever bought and the most expensive transfer into the Premier League for £120 million. Of course, he is a 20-year-old former Manchester City graduate who did move to Borussia Dortmund in 2017 and has really made the Bundesliga his own. Pretty much only Lionel Messi has got more assists than Jadon Sancho in the last 2 seasons. Personal terms seem to be agreed where Sancho will be earning around £200,000 to £250,000 a week and will be getting a fairly hefty signing bonus. Ask you, Nithin, how important is it that United get this deal done as soon as possible?
Yeah, obviously, we have a history of dragging out deals for long. So we have seen it with Bruno Fernandes and with Maguire and Van Bissaka in the summer. Like, we have a tendency to drag on deals for to reduce like a 5 or 10 million into the deal. So we have a history. So I'm over the moon actually, because we are completing a deal of this magnitude and we are just a week into the transfer window. So that's absolutely amazing. So I never saw this coming. So I expected rumors to rumble on, and fair play to Dortmund as well. So they had set up an initial deadline of August the 10th. So I think that was really encouraging, and that has pushed us to go into this deal quite quickly, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah. Obviously, I think it's been quite important, and especially I think it helps that Dortmund got knocked out of the Champions League, so they don't have a lot to play for now. In fact, their season is over, so it is actually almost a blessing. Well, no, it's not a blessing. It's just a blessing that they got that PSG did us a favour 2 seasons in a row. Well, I mean, they did themselves a bit of harm last year for our benefit, but this year they've done us a bit of good with getting Dortmund knocked out. Joe, of course, he is going to be potentially one of the most expensive players on the planet. Still not going to be surpassing the likes of Coutinho, Dembele, Neymar, and Mbappe, but it's still a lot of money for a player. Do you think that might weigh over his head?
I don't know. I mean, you'd have to say, looking at his career up to now, I mean, obviously he went to Dortmund with quite low expectations because, I mean, they didn't. I think if we pay them the money that they want, I think they're going to get over 10 times the amount that they paid Man City or something. But I think whenever you look at sort of when questions have been asked of Sancho, you know, he's always stepped up and provided the answers. I mean, he obviously came into the England side at quite a young age as well, and quite short notice, and he fitted into that team really well. And that's a difficult team to get into at the moment. You know, England are playing as well as they have done for a long time now. So, you know, he sort of slipped into that team quite seamlessly. And I don't think he'll be burdened by the heavy price tag. I think he looks like the type of player and personality that will thrive off of that, and I just think he'll let all the pressure sort of go over his head, and just sort of he'll prove to everybody when he's on the pitch on a stage like Old Trafford just why he's worth that type of money.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I do. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see him flourish, especially after all those Chelsea fans suddenly changing their minds over the last few days or so, saying, "Oh, Ziyech, we always wanted Ziyech. We didn't want Sancho." All that.
They wanted Sancho.
I
think they see Sancho as one of their as they thought he was their player. I think he was a boyhood Chelsea fan, wasn't he? And I think they thought that if he was ever going to leave Dortmund, that they'd become favourites for him. But they've shown that they've prioritised other signings. I'm not going to say that they can't afford him, because you look at the money that they've already spent and they'll continue spending this window. They probably could afford him, but they've obviously decided to look elsewhere. And you know, Jadon's got a lot of friends in this United squad, and I think he's looking forward to playing alongside those guys. You know, the likes of Rashford and people like that. So.
Yeah, of course. I think he'll really. Hopefully, he'll make that play position his own. Obviously, it will give a little bit of take a little bit of weight off Mason Greenwood's shoulders, who's obviously been playing that role quite exceptionally, especially since lockdown ended for football. But of course, there are other reports saying that Jadon Sancho will be taking that number 7 shirt away from Alexis Sanchez, who is set to depart to Inter Milan soon, probably in the next 24 hours. We'll get onto that in a little bit of time. But before then, Nithin, of course, there is that curse of the number 7 since Cristiano Ronaldo. None have really been successes. Michael Owen, Antonio Valencia, of course, Di Maria and Memphis Depay, and of course, the aforementioned Alexis Sanchez over the last 5 or 6 years. How important is it that he hits the ground running immediately? Because, you know, if he goes over a goal drought in his first few games, could that really, really harm his confidence?
Yeah, obviously, first of all, to address the curse in the number 7 shirt, because I think it's more down to poor recruitment rather than a curse of a particular number. That's what I feel, because after Cristiano Ronaldo left, we gave it to Michael Owen. He was in the twilight of his career, and you know, he wasn't that good enough. It went on to Antonio Valencia. I mean, the only argument we can fancy is Memphis Depay. Actually, he was quite stunning with his time at it was which club was he? Memphis, was it? PSV. PSV, yeah.
Yeah, he was chucked out by Jose.
Yeah, PSV. So he was absolutely killing it over there. And when he came to United, took on the number 7, and yeah, he kind of flopped. Yeah, obviously. And Di Maria, actually, he had a great start to his life at United, but suddenly because of his poor mentality, he just fluffed off. So obviously, that pressure I don't think the number will give him much of an additional pressure, but yeah, being number 7 of Manchester United is some responsibility that he has to take with both arms. And coming to his the goals he might score and like the numbers, obviously we have all these pundits around who is ready to criticize Man United day in, day out, all those ESPN FC, those idiots, and they have nothing but criticize Man United on a weekly basis. So obviously there will be added pressure on Jadon Sancho, but we can't let the fact that he left Manchester City at such a young age to go abroad, to forge a career for himself, play in the Champions League, go get bank goals left, right, and center, and grab assists as well. So he loves pressure, Jadon Sancho. That's what I feel. So I think that won't be much of an issue to him.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. Let's hope the deal gets through very swiftly. Obviously, nothing is concrete yet. Things still being agreed, and honestly, the PTSD from the last 7 years has meant I can only guarantee he's been signed when he's holding that United shirt, got that contract in his hand with the pen, and he's shaking the manager's hand. But even then, still a little bit worried. But we'll have to see. Obviously, other signings could potentially be made. One of those that is becoming less and less likely is Jack Grealish, who, of course, would have been almost set to sign for Manchester United had Villa actually gone down this season. But in fact, they miraculously stayed up after some exceptional work in the last few games of the season. Of course, their defence started to shape up, and creditable wins against Palace and Arsenal and important draws against West Ham and Everton sealed safety and relegated Watford and Bournemouth. How much of a blow is it that, for Manchester United specifically, Joe, that Villa stayed up?
Yeah, blow for Manchester United and a blow for Jack Grealish himself. And ironically, he did it himself with his goal on the final day against West Ham, I suppose, didn't he? But no, I mean, from a Manchester United perspective, I'm not too sure. I still think there was a few question marks over Jack Grealish. I think the biggest thing for me was all about curiosity. I was just curious to see how he would perform in a bigger side, if you know, in a better team. I mean, a lot of criticism that's been sort of laid at his door is that he sort of fouled too much, and that comes from the fact that he takes too many touches on the ball. But you could argue at a team like Villa, he's probably having to take more touches on the ball because obviously he's playing with players of lesser ability. So there'll always be that curiosity until he makes a move to a bigger team, just how good Jack Grealish can be. And it's interesting now for Jack. I think if he wants to move, to United or to any other club, two things really. One, he's going to have to get the price down himself by sort of forcing a move. And the other thing he's got to think of is if he's got real ambitions for playing for England, he's going to have to find himself in a team in the Premier League next season, because there's no way he's going to get picked in England's European Championship side next summer off the back of a season in the Championship, no matter how good he is. So I think it's a bit of a blow, but also at the same time, I wouldn't say that this deal is dead in the water yet. I just think it's one of them. I mean, there's been talk today, hasn't it, that they might have to sort of wait until later on in the window to get it done because of, that might drive the price down. So we might have to be patient with this one. But if it doesn't happen, I think, United have obviously been linked with other midfield options. People like Donny van de Beek, who actually might be a better fit anyway. And you could argue that if they are going to make one signing in midfield this year, it actually probably would be better being something like a defensive midfielder. So I'm not sure. I think we'll get by. I think it's more of a blow for Jack Grealish because I think he'd really got his eyes on a big move this summer.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do feel a little bit sorry for him because obviously he still hasn't got that England call up. The likes of Mason Mount and Ruben Loftus-Cheek and James Maddison have got those calls, but he is yet to receive one by Gareth Southgate. But I think after the season he's had, if he can keep it up next season for either Villa or someone else, he will be almost a shoo-in in that team because I think the likes of Dele Alli and Jesse Lingard's influence will be fading, to say the least. So, of course, we have been linked with, obviously, midfielders like Grealish and wingers like Sancho. But, of course, we have actually been linked with some defenders, Nathan Ake being one. But, of course, he is actually, if the reports are certain, set to sign for Manchester City instead of Manchester United for £41 million. So we might have dodged a bullet there because that was probably out of our price range for Ake. However, United have been linked with Lille defender Gabriel. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know who he was until we were linked with him, which is sometimes the case. Honestly, with Daniel James and Darmian for me. But nevertheless, he is the player that looks likely to sign for United if they are to sign a left-footed centre-back. Of course, have been linked with Pau Torres as well from Villarreal. But we'll focus on Gabriel. He's only conceded 27 goals in 28 games in Liga this season, Lille, and they've managed to get a fourth place finish, despite the likes of Monaco and Marseille being resurgent, and did actually do a really good job despite not actually scoring that many goals. And you have to say the credit must be done to the likes of Gabriel and Jallo, who were the centre-back partnership for the majority of the season, and in the Champions League too. So, Nithin, I mean, how much do you know about Gabriel, and do you think he would be a good signing?
Yeah, obviously that's the case with me as well, because I started watching him after we got linked to him actually. So from what I see, like, he's a brilliant left-footed centre-back, and he can deliver those pinpoint balls up into the forward area. So and he has great physique, and he's quite fast as well. So, and he's just 22 to add to that. And the fact that he's playing in Lille makes me think that he's got something, because Luis Campos is a director of football over there. And if he spots a talent like this, and I think there should be something in him, because don't forget we should not forget the fact that Rafael Varane, one of the best centre backs in world football, was scouted by Luis Campos and signed for Real Madrid when he was the Real Madrid director of football, I think. Yeah. So the fact that he signed by Luis Campos at Lille for Lille makes me think that there must be something in him. And from what I've seen on him on these YouTube clips, I mean, he looks fantastic on the ball. He's so comfortable on the ball, and his left foot is so amazing. I mean, we don't have a left-footed centre back at the moment in our club. Rojo is obviously in Argentina with his boyhood club. So he's a brilliant player from what I've seen, and he's quite good in all aspects, I would say. So I haven't read any weak points to his game. Might be an aerial duel or something like that. So from what I've seen and read, he's an amazing player. Would be a great addition to partner Harry Maguire. And obviously, we don't have to utilize Harry Maguire in each game we play. We can also put in Lindelof with Gabriel if you're playing a lesser opposition. So we don't have to overuse Maguire as we did this season. So that's what I make of him.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. Squad depth is obviously crucial in any side that is trying to compete for not only the title, but on all fronts with the FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Europe, United obviously in the Champions League, the other teams in other European competitions, but of course could have the Super Cup and maybe even Community Shields throughout the season. And it is obviously important to have that squad depth. Do you see, Joe, maybe United pushing not only, like you said, for a defensive midfielder? Do you see that being a priority on the list, or do you reckon it will be Sancho first, centre-back second, centre-forward third, and then whatever midfielders they can scrounge?
Yeah, I think obviously Jadon Sancho is a deal that will get done first. I think we can see in the last couple of days, obviously there's a lot of work starting to get done on that now, and things seem to be getting close. So it's a bit frustrating with United, but they do seem to only be able to do one deal at a time. Whereas, obviously City are working on two at the moment. I mean, United are probably potentially working on two. If it's someone like Gabriel coming in, then they probably feel that there's not a lot of work to be done on that. I think last week, their representatives were apparently in the UK, weren't they, speaking to United and Everton. So they probably feel that if that's something they want to pursue, they're looking around 30 million euros. It's something that they could probably tie up pretty quickly with Lille. So they've probably got their irons in that fire. But I would actually prioritise maybe another midfielder before looking at centre forward. There's no doubt United probably do need another centre forward, but I've got a funny feeling that they're going to kick that can down the road till maybe January and address it then. Obviously, we've got Agallo staying till the end of January. And it's interesting this week that United have got all flustered about Raul Jimenez, the links with Raul Jimenez to United. It sort of smacks of when they got flustered last summer that they were being linked with Bruno Fernandes, and we all know how that sort of turned out in the January. So I think they will look at, obviously, the centre back. I would imagine will be the next thing after Sancho, and then obviously I would hope at least another midfielder in this window, and then I think they might look at the striker option depending on how quickly they get their business done this summer. Maybe look at it towards the end of this window, but if not, towards January. And like I say, I wouldn't be surprised if it was someone like Raul Jimenez come January time.
Thank you. Yeah, of course, Raul Jimenez has been in excellent form since joining Wolves in 2018. Been absolutely fantastic, and obviously has been linked with United in over the last 12 months, really. Pretty much since Lukaku has departed, and that's not really strange at all. We will move on to maybe players not coming into United, but players coming out of United. And there are some players that are almost set to leave. Alexis Sanchez is the main one at the moment. It would seem that United aren't actually going to get a transfer fee for Sanchez, who still has 2 years left on his contract, if I'm not mistaken. And will instead just have his contract just wiped clean. Inter Milan will pay the rest of his contract, and essentially that will take off 61 million euros off Manchester United's books. And from that kind of deal, you have to say, I think that includes the loan from this year as well. That is a massive amount of money that United now actually have available that they're no longer spending on a player that A, doesn't want to be there, and B, doesn't even play for them. So, I mean, Nithin, how important is it that we get this deal done as soon as possible?
Yeah, obviously. Alexis Sanchez, I can say he's the single worst signing we have made since Sir Alex Ferguson. He was to go to Manchester City. They cleverly pulled out because of his wage demands, I guess. And he just came to Man United because of the wages we offered. And that was just the beginning of the end for him. And we saw how poorly he performed for United. And he under Ole, and he couldn't even make the bench at times. So we should focus, even before this transfer window, when my opinion was that we should prioritize on selling Sanchez, because that's a huge burden on our club, because we are still paying for his wages. And if we get him out of the club, we can save a massive amount of money, which we can reinvest in some other areas. So it's massive that, we should ship him out. And it looks like we are about to, we have finalized the agreement with Inter. And that's massive. So although I see some people saying that we have let him go for free, but don't forget the fact that he will cost us 60 million euros in wages. So 15 million euros of transfer fee doesn't matter much in the grand scheme of things. So his wages are definitely was a burden on our club, and we can cover up and his wages alone can cover up the wages of two individual players, like say Donny van der Beek and Gabriel. So we can cover up two wages in his wage bill. So that's a great move by the club, and hope we get rid of some more deadwoods like Phil Jones, Jesse Lingard. I'm not sure, like with the recent comments from Solskjaer and himself. So I think that he's staying for at least another year, and Marcus Rojo looks like he's going as well. And Chris Smalling, interestingly, Solskjaer had a word of praise about him, but I think that he's not in all his plans, because if he was there in his plans, he would have definitely kept him for this season. So he obviously decided to loan him out. So I think Smalling also will, since he performed in the Serie A last season, so obviously there will be more takers for him other than Roma. So I expect all these deals to go through, and it will be a massive step in the right direction.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I think it really is. It's really important that he's whittled away at the deadwood at the club. Obviously, allowing. I wouldn't say Lukaku was deadwood, but he didn't want to be there, and that's enough for Ollie to say off your pop. He got rid of him. He sent Smalling and Sanchez on loan. He let Darmian leave as well for practically nothing, which honestly wasn't a big deal. He also got rid of Valencia and Young at different stages, who had started to decline really in the late stages of throughout 2018-19 really. And I don't think he's done there. I think Phil Jones is going to be the next to go, especially if they can get Gabriel or somebody else in. And then United will have, I think, 5 first-team centre-backs when all fit. And, of course, the youngster Tayden Mengi, who has been training with the first team and is actually part of the Europa League squad, the 30-man group that will be going to Cologne after tomorrow's match. So I think it is important that Jones and Rojo and the likes of Sanchez. I think Rojo and Jones both have £120,000 a week contracts. I think Smalling's actually the same, and of course Sanchez is extortionate. But that's a lot of money opened up, especially if they also get transfer. They actually get a sum as well, a lump sum too. So it's a lot of it opens up a lot of avenues for Manchester United, especially if the Glazers aren't willing to pour out another 250 million pounds like they did last season. So it's hugely important that Manchester United do make sure that they can get rid of these players and as quickly as possible, really. When it comes to Joe, when it comes to the likes of Smalling, I mean Rojo, maybe not, but Jones as well. I mean, down the years, were you ever hoping that they could form that kind of centre-back pairing of Vidic and Ferdinand that last United that decade that you were kind of hoping for throughout?
Yeah, maybe more Bruce and Pallister, with them both being English. But yeah, I think when they both signed, I remember watching Phil Jones a good few games before he signed for United that season before, and he looked really good playing centre-back for Blackburn, and I thought he is a sort of a John Terry style defender that we might have caught at a good age, can play sort of holding midfield potentially as well for it. I thought he'd be a cracking signing. Chris Smalling, I didn't know too much about him because if you remember, he went from sort of Maidstone United to Manchester United in 2 years. So he really only had like a brief season with Fulham in between. Yeah. And I hadn't watched a lot of him. But, when you sign two young English centre-backs, you do feel actually, hopefully this can be the centre-back pairing for United for the next decade, like you say, and even England. And I actually thought the type of player Phil Jones was, I could see him captaining both club and country. But, dear, how wrong you can be. And it's I mean, obviously, Phil Jones goes this summer, he'll have his pick of championship clubs, so he'll be fine. Potentially some League One clubs if they don't fancy it either. So, no, but, I mean, the only thing I'll say on someone like Chris Smalling, for example, he has been at the club now for 10 years. I mean, obviously, he was spent last season out on loan, and he's had a couple of seasons where he's been quiet and not really got into the team.
Yeah.
But, you look at how well he's done at somewhere like Roma this year, and it looks like United are bringing him back. And actually, some of the comments today by Solskjaer look like he might be wanting to use him next season. But I hope really, because the thing I'll say about Chris Smalling, I've actually had the pleasure of chatting to him a couple of times. He's actually he's a very nice guy, actually, to be fair. Great guy, lovely guy, easy to talk to, very honest, very, loves the club. But I just hope if we are going to bring him back from Italy, we will use him, because I just feel like a move back to Roma on a permanent basis just felt the best for all parties, really. It felt the best for, Roma have got a great player that they obviously rate, and he's been one of their best players this season. United would have got rid of a player that they haven't really had a use for in the last couple of seasons, with some money involved in it as well, and like you say, getting the wage off the bill. But also, I think Chris has really enjoyed his time over in Italy. I think he and his family have obviously settled quite well, and I just think it would have been the best move for everyone. So I just hope that if Solskjaer is going to bring him back, he will actually find a place for him, because I just feel like, although he's not been a legend of the club, I just feel a bit harsh taking him back from Italy. If he's not going to play, you might as well let the guy go and enjoy the final 3 or 4 years of his career, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe the fact that they're saying, we'll take him back and, he's done really well. I think that's mainly so that Roma agree to I think it's 18 to 20 million pound transfer fee they're asking, which isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things. So I think it is a tactical move from Woodward, which I don't think will backfire, because apparently Juventus might want him too, as a long-term replacement for Bonucci and Chiellini, who obviously are, I think, 35 and 33 respectively.
I think you might be right. I think United, what they're doing here by bringing Chris back is that they're obviously trying to maybe draw up a bit of an auction for him, obviously, because he's been one of the best players in Serie A this season, let alone Roma. So you look at Conte. I don't know if he's still going to be at Inter next year, but obviously Inter have brought a lot of players over from the Premier League, and obviously Juventus, like you say, are interested. If they could get those three clubs and even AC Milan, something like that, getting involved in a bidding war, then it may push the price up a little bit. So like you say, it may be a clever move in some regards.
Yeah, absolutely. One player that's not moving or coming in, and in fact is staying for longer, is Brandon Williams, who's actually signed a new deal which will last till 2024 with the option to extend it for a further year, and is likely to earn around 50 to 65,000 pounds a week. Of course, the 19-year-old has made 33 first-team appearances since his debut against Rochdale in the Carabao Cup, game in which United did actually draw, but won on penalties and progressed as far as the semi-final. Nithin, do you think this contract has been well-deserved? I do know that some people have been saying he hasn't done enough, especially since he signed his first professional contract, I think, at the end of last season. Do you think he's shown he deserves that money?
Yes, he has, obviously, in my opinion, because he has played really well when he was called upon. And Luke Shaw, you know how injury-prone he has been this season. So whenever he has been called upon, he has done a job for us. And don't forget the fact that he was successful in keeping one of the paciest wingers in Adama Traore quiet for an entire game. So definitely there's a talent in him. And it's a very well-deserved contract. And I like the fact how Solskjaer used him, because he didn't rush him all of a sudden, but called him up gradually and gave him minutes. And now I think we have our backup left back, at least backup for now. So he's a very well-deserved contract. I'm really happy for him, the way he's played this season. So normally we tend to see a drift in form whenever a player signs a contract. We've seen it with David De Gea, and we've seen some of the players, come down their game a bit after signing a contract. I really hope that it is not the case with Brandon Williams, because he's a terrific player and he has a great future ahead of him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's more important now than ever, really, because Brandon Williams is the only natural left back that's in United's 30-man squad heading to Cologne and set to face LASK tomorrow. Luke Shaw obviously rolled his ankle quite badly against Southampton earlier in the Premier League campaign and is not going to be available for the Europa League. But reports do suggest that himself and Axel Tuanzebe will be fit for the 2020-2021 start, but maybe not be available for the first game, but will certainly be back in training for at the most then, maybe a little bit earlier, we'll have to see. But Williams will be obviously starting quite a lot of matches in the Europa League during this mini tournament in Germany. We'll move on to that now. Of course, United, like I said before, have a 5-0 win in the bag at LASK Stadium in Austria. 5 goals, 5 different goal scorers. I'll have a little throwback for Igalo's fantastic juggling of the ball and a sensational left-footed volley. James's smart finish in his 4th goal of the season after, I think, a 32-game goal drought. Fred finding Mata almost effortlessly, but definitely a fantastic pass, and Mata slotting his 3rd goal of the season before 2 late goals from Mason Greenwood and Andreas Pereira. Andreas Pereira obviously scoring from 40 yards out in what can only be said as a goalkeeping howler. But obviously LSK know they're practically out of the game. We'll probably try and gain some pride back with a brave performance at Old Trafford. Obviously, a big night for them, going to the Theatre of Dreams for the first time. Joe, do you see this game? Solskjaer says it's not going to be 5-0. It's going to be a difficult match. It was difficult for the 5 goals, and honestly, they were a bit lucky. He hinted at that they got 5 goals, in the sense that the finishes were brilliant and the moments of quality overruled the kind of brief moments of sloppiness. So how do you see this game going? Do you see it being a comfortable score, or do you see it being a bit nervy, especially if they make changes?
I think the key is this game will be as difficult as Manchester United make it for themselves, and by that I mean in terms of their team selection. So obviously, as we know, we've had this sort of first 11 that we've been using in the Premier League, and because of the form of players outside of that, we've not been able to sort of rest and rotate too much, especially in the league. Like I say, we tried through the FA Cup and that didn't go too well. But it'll be interesting to see what team Solskjaer puts out, because there is that second 11 that we could say that was the 11 that played against Norwich City, and obviously that as a from a spectator point of view wasn't great to watch, and it'll be interesting whether they go with that team or whether they go even for something like a third 11, which would be a team similar to what they put out against Astana. I don't know if you remember earlier on in the Europa League campaign when they travelled over to Astana and they took an even less experienced team, obviously less quality as well, with a lot of academy players. So it'll be really interesting to see what sort of team they do put out for this. But obviously the Europa League squads have been named, so I do think it'll be a team similar to something like Norwich, if you know what I mean. I could see that with even less, so obviously someone like even Bruno not playing in it. I just think those players looked out on their feet come the end of the Premier League season, and I just feel even though they will be there and they'll be training and they'll be travelling with the squad, I still think it's another opportunity to give those players a few more days off, ready to really hit the knockout stages of this tournament. Because United are going to get through regardless of whether they win the game. They won't want to lose the game, obviously, but they're through, so they've got to use this opportunity, I think, to keep the legs fresh. And then a lot of people have been debating how they'll approach the quarters, semis and final. I'll be honest with you, this club's all about winning trophies, and I think the quicker Solskjaer can do that, the quicker, the better it is for him and for the club. So I actually think it's a trophy they should really go for. So I would literally try and rest all his major players for this game and then really hit that tournament with his best 11, because it's just 3 games if they can win them all. It's 3 games and it's a great trophy to win. It's not as important now because we have third, so the Champions League is not resting on it, but what is resting on it is United winning another trophy, and that's what we're all about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's massive that United need to finish with a trophy. Obviously, Chelsea didn't. City did finish with the Carabao Cup in the end after defeating United over the 2 legs in the semi-final, and then Villa in the final. Liverpool obviously came away with the Premier League and a couple of European Community Shields in the Club World Cup and the Super Cup. Chelsea obviously did finish without any trophies, and Tottenham will always finish without any trophies, but maybe that regime will be over with the serial winner Jose Mourinho. We'll have to see. And Arsenal did finish with that FA Cup, which they will constantly remind people of, and for no reason, forgetting that they're 8th place. But I guess we'll just have to deal with that until reality hits them again.
A trophy that we won as a club and then sacked the manager the next day. So yeah.
Well, yeah, there we go. I mean, there are levels. Although I do although in all fairness, I do disagree with how that was done. I think that was.
Oh yeah, no, obviously, yeah, no. I'm not advocating that what we did was a good thing, but I'm just putting a value on the FA Cup, if you know what I mean. Especially
absolutely.
If you count yourself as a big club, if you know what I mean.
yeah. In fact, I actually did read something earlier this month that actually he was sacked the day before the FA Cup final. Okay, so he already knew he would lose his job regardless.
Yeah.
Which is honestly that's just shocking.
Yeah,
but,
that's been much talked about, hasn't it? We
no.
It's not good. I'm not proud of the club or Ed Woodward for the way they went about that at all. But my point that I was just making was obviously, if you feel like you're a major player, which the guys at AFTV obviously do think they are now, they've won the FA Cup, then that's just a bit of a shot of reality, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Of course, and of course after the LASK game, I'm not going to jinx it because stranger things have happened, but should United get through past LASK at Old Trafford, they do have either Başakşehir or Copenhagen in the quarterfinal, depending on the result there. Do you see Nithin, do you see United making the same, similar changes to the ones Joe's predicting for the LASK game, or do you see them potentially having a stronger squad? Obviously, knowing full well that there's only one leg now, so they can't really afford to make mistakes.
Yeah, obviously, for the LSK game, I predict Solskjaer to put out a team with academy graduates. I think that since we have a final lead, and going forward, if you have to progress, I think in the later stages, I obviously feel that Solskjaer will go all out and win his first trophy, and by fielding his best possible 11 with all his first team players available. So I think for tomorrow, as far as tomorrow's game is concerned, I do expect many changes into the team. And going forward, the remaining matches, I fully expect him to play his best, strongest 11.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll talk about the LASK predictions. So, I mean, Joe, you've said you expect that United will have a similar lineup to the one against Norwich in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup. Specifically, who do you see starting in that team? I mean, obviously, I think it is fair to say it's going to be Romero in goal. But the back four is an interesting choice because we do obviously only have 3 fit first team centre backs. I think Jones is recovering but not available yet. Mengi might be thrown in, but of course the fullbacks, there aren't many options available on the left, but certainly there are 4 available on the right. So how would you line Manchester United up?
Yeah, I think I could see someone like Mengi getting thrown in for this game to play alongside. I would say someone like Lindelof, because I think Maguire has obviously had a lot of minutes this season. I don't know how he's shaping up at the moment. I never know whether he's fit or not. So obviously, if you're saying we've got 3 fit centre backs, you're probably referring to Lindelof, Maguire, and Mengi, are you? I would imagine.
Bailly, I believe, is fit. He was on the bench against Leicester.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, even then, I would be tempted to see how Bailly and Mengi get along. It depends. Solskjaer obviously knows this boy Mengi more than we do, and if he feels if he's going to play, he needs to play alongside a certain type of defender, whether that be Lindelof or Maguire, then obviously he'll do that. But I would like to see Mengi play. I think Dalot will get a go at fullback. Obviously, he's really struggled for game time recently, but he could do with some game time, and he needs to find some form from somewhere, because I actually feel like his United career, whether you agree or not, is sort of on teetering if he doesn't start putting in some good performances. So I could see him, and maybe they may look at someone like Ethan Laird to play on the other full. I know obviously Brandon Williams has just signed a new contract, but I think he'll become pivotal when the knockout stages come, when we go across to the tournament, because like you say, he's the only recognised left back we've got in the squad. So I think he'll be keen to maybe just protect Brandon Williams a little bit. So you could even see Ethan Laird as the other fullback. In midfield, I hope for the sake of the game that he puts midfielders out that are sort of on the edge of the squad, so on the edge of the team. So it's people like Andreas Pereira, Scott McTominay get a game, Fred, because of the lack of trust in these players. I think they've struggled for minutes since we've come back. Obviously we've had this midfield 3 of Matic, Pogba, and Fernandes, and those players are not bad players, but because the drop off is so big, they haven't played as much. So I could see those 3 probably playing in midfield, but there are the likes of Dylan Levitt who could get a game and things like that. And then I feel obviously Jesse was at the press conference today, and that's usually a sign that he'll play some part, maybe a major part. He could even captain the team. So I think Jesse will play. Agallo up top, potentially give him another opportunity to try and get some goals. He's done well for us in the cup competitions. And then on the other side, someone like Dan James, again, for the same reason as the midfielders, really, because of the drop off and the lack of sort of trust that Solskjaer has in them players to do a job. They've suffered as a result of that in terms of minutes on the pitch. So I would think that would be our front 3, sort of James, Ighalo, and Jesse Lingard. Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely. I can definitely see that being a team that they can put, and a team that can win the game, really. I mean, they have the qualities. It's just whether they're well drilled and they're composed, and obviously they're all looking to force themselves back into the team because the the first team that's been starring for post-lockdown has actually really not changed that much since the Tottenham game finished, really. Nithin, would you disagree with Joe in any of those points, or would you agree wholly with those?
Yeah, even I go for a similar lineup. I'll go for Romero in goal. I'm going for Ethan Laird at right back and Brandon at left back. And Mengi, I think Maguire could play because it's Solskjaer trusts him very much. And if we are to bring in a youngster like Teden Mengi, I think he would need that composure of Harry Maguire to play a lot of game. So I think Mengi and Maguire could be a possibility for tomorrow with Laird and Brandon as the fullbacks. And I'm going for Scott, Fred, and Lingard in the midfield, with Chong, Igalo, and James up top.
Chong, Igalo. Yeah, okay, I can definitely see that.
Chong, to be fair, yeah,
I think we all forgot about Chong. To be fair,
yeah, he had. I mean, he's obviously signed this new contract, and that's great. And obviously, interested to see how he kicks on. But he hasn't played that much, obviously, since the restart. But sorry, just to say as well, Arjun, another player that I didn't consider would be someone like Web Matter. I do wonder whether his time at United is coming to an end and whether this might be an opportunity for him, at Old Trafford to probably have a sort of swan song, if you know what I mean. If United do go strong in the knockout games, I don't see him featuring too many times in those games. So I think Mata could also feature at some point. Whether it'll be the full 90 or whether he'll come off the bench, I'm not sure.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll give mine as well. I might as well. I think Romero. I don't think Laird will start. Actually, it might be controversial, but I think maybe he'll get brought on. Obviously, I'd like to see maybe Diogo Dalot be given a second chance. Obviously, against a team that, I mean, he could do a fair bit of damage against. Really, I mean, he's got a wicked cross on him, and it might be a good chance for him to impress and improve in his defensive techniques. But honestly, I might see Fosu Mensah start, who did start against West Ham, but was brought off after the yellow card and not really getting in the right positions. I think he might be given a second chance there. I do agree with you, Nithin. I think if Mengi does start, it will be Maguire. But again, I could easily see it being Lindelof and Bailly and letting Maguire have a rest. Obviously, he had played all 38 Premier League games. First player to do that since for United since... Gary Pallister, of course. So,
yeah,
I mean, I can definitely see Maguire getting a rest and maybe being Lindelof and Bailly, because I don't think Mengi would be best suited to either Lindelof or Bailly on the left-hand side. And Williams, I think, is a shoe-in there. In midfield, I think it's going to be McTominay and Fred. I think that's pretty set in stone. Maybe Garner could come in late on, but I don't see him starting the game. He's not really had enough appearances, really. I mean, I think his last appearance was, if I'm not mistaken, against Norwich City in the 3-1 win at Carrow Road, but it could have been in the Europa League later on. The front four, I do think Mata will start. For me, I think he'll start alongside Lingard and James in a fluid front midfield attacking three. I think James will be on the left. I think Lingard will be actually at number 10 and Mata on the right hand side, because his movement off the ball will be fantastic. And honestly, I don't think he'll need to track back too much. And if he can, Lingard might just cover in for him. And then obviously Igalo up front. I think he'll get another goal and another start. I think he's got 5 goals in his 4 starts for United, and I don't see that stopping really. But quickly, just what are your predictions for the game? Do you think it will be an emphatic victory, Joe?
No. I feel like it could be a little scrappy, but I fancy that United will win it by 2 goals, so maybe 2-0, 3-1, or something like that. But I'll go for 2-0. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Nithin, are you the same? Were you expecting more?
I'm going for a 2-1 actually, because since you're making these shuffles in the defense, I can see us conceding at least 1. But I'm going for a 2-1 because I do think we can get the job over the line.
Thank you. I'm probably going to go for, I'll say it'll be about 1. I think they'll just do damage control, really. So I think it might be 1 or 2-0 as well. I'm going to say 1. I'm going to say 1-0, and it's going to be a kind of hard fought but well earned 1-0.
Matter
We'll have
penalty
to
in the
see.
90th minute or something like that, I think.
Regardless, is a kick in the 90th minute. Yes, please.
Exactly, yeah.
But just before we finish, we'll have our quick predictions for the other European games for the English sides. Of course, Wolves will be playing Olympiacos at Molineux. Joe, your prediction for that game?
Yeah, I think Wolves could be the dark horse for this tournament. I think they're really going to go for it. I think they could be licking their wounds after missing out on Europa League, Champions League and Europa League since the restart. Obviously, they were right in the mix for Champions League when we came back, and obviously the fact that fifth place disappeared because City's ban got overturned, and then obviously the drop-off in form meant that they dropped down to a point where they were in the Europa League places, but obviously Arsenal winning that FA Cup has sort of put paid to that. So I think they might have used these couple of weeks to sort of recharge the batteries, and I think they'll probably have a right go at this. And I think Wolves are one of those teams, if they're right, if they have the right mentality, they're a dangerous side. I mean, we know how dangerous they can be to us, for example, and they could be our potential, semi-final opponents, isn't it? So, I think watch Wolves, to be fair. So I think they'll get through. I think they'll have no problem getting through the second leg, even though it's close on aggregate. It's 1-1, I think, isn't it? And I expect them, like I say, to be the dark horse. Once we get over to Germany, people might take them lightly, but they'll be foolish because they're a good side.
Yeah, absolutely. Nithin, what scoreline do you see them? So do you see them winning too, or do you think Olympiacos can sneak in another away win in England like they did against Arsenal?
No, I do. Even I feel that Wolves will get the job done because they have a fantastic team with the Ruben Neves, Joe Moutinho in the midfield, and Raul Jimenez up top. They have a great team. So I think that they'll comfortably get past Olympiacos. I predict a 2-0 or 3-0 for them.
Thank you. Yeah, and obviously in the Champions League there are still two English teams technically in. I don't think you can call Chelsea in too much though. Manchester City versus Real Madrid. Of course, it's very, very interestingly poised. City getting a 2-1 win at the Bernabeu, and if I'm not mistaken, Sergio Ramos was actually sent off or banned in that game. So he won't feature for Real Madrid, which is a massive loss for them. Joe, how do you see that game going?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm really hoping that obviously Real Madrid can come and do a job, and I know that that's probably controversial because people say that we should get behind the British clubs, but everything that's gone on with City with this ban overturned, I'm still not sure I'm convinced by it all. To be honest, there's things that aren't quite right there, and I just feel like obviously they are so desperate to get something over the line in Europe that it'll be quite good to see them have to sweat over it for another year. But I just think, look, if the game goes anything like the Bernabeu, in all fairness to Man City, as much as I don't like to say it, they absolutely schooled Real Madrid in their own backyard, to be honest. So I mean, if they put a similar type of performance, I think they'll have too much for Real. But this Real Madrid team obviously been playing fantastically since they came back in their league, obviously winning the league and things like that. So they couldn't ask to come to Manchester City in better form and better feelings. So let's hope they can pull out one of them sort of all-time great Real Madrid performances and overturn it. But I do think City will get through. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously Hazard being back is a massive boost for them. Nithin, do you see City going through comfortably, or do you think it's going to be nervy?
Yeah, like my mind says City will go through, but my heart hopes Real Madrid goes through because I don't want to see them win it. I mean, I don't want to see them in a competition. They are such scumbags. They paid money to get out of the CAS arbitrations. And, I hope that the Real Madrid put up a performance, and the fact that they have finished the La Liga season really strongly and they have been great of late. But obviously, Ramos will be a huge miss. Hope Varane can do a job there. And, so I think that City will get through, but I'm fingers crossed for a great Real Madrid performance.
Yeah, I'm personally expecting a De Bruyne masterclass yet again, and things to go horribly wrong for Real Madrid. But stranger things have happened, and of course Real Madrid have knocked out City a couple times down the years. But I think the lack of Ronaldo has will obviously hamper their mentality, I think, really, and Ramos, of course. Of course, now Chelsea are 3-0 down when they travel to the Allianz Arena in Germany, but let's stay, relatively neutral and let's sort of presume Chelsea could still get through. So, Joe, I'll ask you, how many goals will Lewandowski score in that game?
I don't know. A hat trick, I fancy. I just think this game will all hinge on what team Frank puts out. Obviously, we've heard Mr. Lampard having a little moan previous week. That his players won't have enough time to get some rest in now before the start of next season. I mean, obviously, he doesn't realise how lucky he is, because if they go out as expected against Bayern Munich, they're going to have a lot more time to prepare for next season than the likes of Manchester United, Manchester City, if they go through, and Wolves as expected. So, and I haven't heard Solskjaer making any particular sort of mention of the lack of time, before the next season starts. Everybody else is just getting on with it. But obviously for Frank, it's become a bit of an issue. So if he is worried about injuries and player fitness, what's to say he won't go and take a really young, inexperienced team out there, or a fringe team? And then obviously the only other unknown is obviously Bayern Munich have had a couple of, they finished their season a couple of weeks ago, so they've had a bit longer off. Will they be able to pick up where they left off, or will they show a bit of rustiness? But whichever way you look at this game, a 3-goal lead is not going to be overturned in Bayern's backyard.
Of course, I mean, obviously we have seen some scary things in the Champions League, especially last season, with some fantastic comebacks, especially from English sides, Tottenham, Liverpool, Manchester United, obviously starring in those. Nithin, do you see anything other than a Bayern Munich win?
No, honestly, I don't, because the shape their defense is in, I can imagine even Lewandowski scoring 5. So. Yeah. So like, I don't expect Chelsea to go through. I mean, I think Pulisic is also out for the game since he got injured in the FA Cup final.
He is, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a cakewalk for Bayern.
I mean, can I just add there as well? I mean, I find it amazing at the moment. Not that I'm too worried about Chelsea, but the fact that I'm not really hearing them linked to too many defenders, apart from obviously Chilwell at left back and. Is it Reguilon?
Reguilon, yeah.
To be Reguilon, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, sorry. But in terms of centre-backs, I'm not hearing them linked with too many names, and I think they need at least 2 centre-backs. I mean, today in the news, it's obviously saying that they're actually willing to listen to offers for 3 of the centre-backs, so they're going to need...
That's all 3 of their centre-backs, isn't it?
I just don't know where they're doing that right now, to be honest.
Yeah, I obviously the goalkeeper too.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean... They've done some great work in the attacking area of the pitch, where they probably did need to do a bit of work. They needed a few more goals, needed a bit of reliability up front. But I think the biggest problem's at the back. I think it's there for all to see. The whole back 5, it doesn't matter what centre back partnership they put out, it always looks like it's got mistakes in it. The goalkeeper looks shaky at best, and then in the full back areas, they're great at going forward, but getting back, it would be a worry for me if I was a Chelsea fan. But thankfully, I'm not, and that's for them to deal with over this summer. But they've got some massive work to do on that defence. But it doesn't seem. I wake up every day and they don't seem to be linked to defenders, which is strange.
It is strange indeed. Obviously, I'll just quickly bring out a stat about Kepa. He is statistically the worst goalkeeper in the Premier League that has played over 10 games in the league. He has, I think he's got a save percentage of, if I'm not mistaken, 17%, and has not moved for 30% of the goals he's conceded. He just hasn't moved, which is astonishing.
And also the fact that Chelsea paid 80 million for him. Yeah. And if it was a Man United player, these pundits would have been all around and commenting about that player. So the fact that they paid 80 million for such a keeper is not talked about much. Obviously, because he's not a Man United player, firstly, and secondly, he plays for the Red Boys.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you're right about the Chelsea centre-backs. I think they are actually the only player that's not actually been technically transfer listed in inverted commas is Fikayo Tomori, who obviously has a big future. But we'll have to see what Chelsea do, because I think you are right. They need defenders and fast, otherwise they're going to turn into the next Arsenal with they've got the firepower, they just don't have the defence. So we'll have to see how that turns out. I am afraid, though, this is all we have time for this week. Thank you for listening, and thank you to both Joe and Nithin for joining me. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Nithin, it was your first podcast for us. Hopefully it was an enjoyable experience.
Great. It was a pleasure.
All right, then. Well, of course, United are playing LASK tomorrow. If you are also interested in our predicted teams, there is a poll going out on Twitter about which players should be starting in the team, and the results will be released, I believe, at 5:30 tomorrow. If you have any questions or any topics you would like for us to discuss on the podcast, comment below on this YouTube video, on the Twitter or Facebook post, and we will answer them live on the podcast and give you a shout out in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on Twitter for all of our content.